The president met with his national security team tonight on Syria, and with his new national security advisor, John Bolton, at his side, ended up talking extensively with the press about not only Syria, but also the special counsel raids on his personal attorney. Joining us now, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, as well as the Senate Armed Forces Committee. Good to see you tonight, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's start with the raids on Michael Cohen. I want to read something from Vanity Fair. Emily Jane Fox wrote this. She said, while Trump's allies have dismissed many of the people in the special counsel's crosshairs as low-level campaign officials or waved away the charges against Paul Manafort as unrelated to Trump, Cohen is inextricably and emotionally linked to the Trump family. Last summer, he told me he would, quote, take a bullet for the president. How is what happened today different than what we saw?
I don't know what they're looking at. The only thing that I can tell the president and his supporters and the country as a whole, if President Trump's campaign colluded or worked with the Russians in an improper way, they're in big-time trouble. If that didn't happen, most of this won't matter. Stormy Daniels is not going to matter. I don't know what the NDA was all about. Michael Cohen may have done something he shouldn't have done in terms of that legal transaction. But the one thing President Trump needs to be assured of, if he didn't work with the Russians, the American people will see through all this. If he did work with the Russians, he's in trouble, and I've seen no evidence that he did.
And he's maintained all along that he wants this to wrap up. He said he wants to talk to Mueller because he says he's confident that they won't find anything. I mean, listen, his attorneys are going to fight with him about that. That apparently has been a big point of contention.
But here's the point. If the Trump campaign in some way received help from the Russian government, Russian intelligence services, WikiLeaks, coordinated with them, that's a big deal, and they'll pay a heavy price. All of this other stuff is just background noise. The obstruction case, if Trump didn't collude with the Russians, why he fired Comey really doesn't matter, because he could fire Comey for the way he looks. So the only thing I've ever really been concerned about is whether or not the campaign coordinated their efforts with the Russian intelligence services or some ally of Russia, and I've seen no evidence of that yet. This Michael Cohen thing, if it's not related to Russia, if I were Trump, I wouldn't worry about it. All
right, I want to play a little bit of what Molly Hemingway had to say on Special Report tonight, talking about Mueller and the fact that he seems to be feeling pretty confident these days. Here's what she said.
Mueller is unafraid. And it's worth remembering that he was also unafraid when he botched the anthrax investigation by targeting the wrong person, a blunder that cost taxpayers quite a bit of money. I think at this point there is definitely a burden of proof that the FBI, Department of Justice, and special counsel have to meet. President Trump talked about some of the conflicts of interest that are there, and Rosenstein actually has quite a few of them.
He actually talked about him tonight when he was asked whether or not, why haven't you fired Mueller? And he did talk about that. He didn't give an answer there, but then he went on to talk about Rosenstein. And so clearly these two men are on his mind.
So I remember the Ken Starr investigation. The Democrats went after Ken Starr, that is a Republican hack, that everybody that worked for Ken Starr was a Republican. You shouldn't believe a word they said. So this is not unusual to make the special counsel a political punching bag. The only thing I could tell the president, Mr. Mueller has a good reputation. He's doing his job professionally as far as I can tell, and the only way you can dismiss him is for cause. And again, if you didn't collude with the Russians, you got nothing to worry about. The only way you could get in trouble is to take the law in your own hands, and Richard Nixon tried that. It didn't work out well.
No, it did not. Okay, I want to ask you quickly about Syria. In the wake of the chemical attack last week, the president has publicly called out Putin, Russia, Iran for their involvement. Tonight, your colleague, Senator Mike Lee, had this to say. He says, if we do put together a response for them. He says, if the response is going to include military force, the President of the United States should come to Congress and ask for authorization before military force is used. What's your take?
I think Mike Lee's been wrong about almost everything related to this war, and I like him a lot. The Congress declares war. The president can't do that. We've only had 5 declarations of war in the history of the country. The president, as commander-in-chief, has all the authority he needs under Article 2 to go after enemies of this nation. How many people, Mike, does a guy have to kill by chlorine gas until the world gets upset? The president can't rely on the United Nations. It's a feckless body when it comes to rogue regimes.
Their vote tomorrow.
Yeah, but what will they vote?
think?
Nothing will happen. The only thing that can happen is for President Trump to lead a coalition of the willing, the Arabs and Europeans, to go in and destroy every air base that Assad owns. If I were president, there would be no runway available to the Syrian Air Force. There'd be no planes available, and I'd make Assad a target because he's a war criminal. So this president, Donald Trump, has brought North Korea to the table because he's been tough. This president's got the Iranians worried because he's tough. Here's what he has to accomplish. Kim Jong-un has to look at what he does in Syria and say to himself, I don't want to cross Donald Trump. Look at what happened to Assad. If it's one and done, if it's not part of a comprehensive strategy against Assad, then you're going to embolden every bad actor on the planet, including North Korea and the Iranians. This is a defining moment for the president. Take this guy on, blow his Air Force to smithereens, and go after him. The next thing you know, the world will be a better place.
Well, we'll see what they're deciding behind closed doors tonight as they have those very high-level conversations. Senator, thanks for dropping in.
Thank you.
Good to see you.